Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. This is a podcast dedicated to educating and empowering women from preconception, pregnancy, birth, and through early motherhood on wellness lifestyle. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton. I'm a maternity pediatric chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner, and mother who has hand-selected experts in natural holistic healthcare specialties to shine light on options and choices during this exciting phase of a woman's life. Today's topic is spirit babies and the fertile mind, and I have an amazing special guest, Lindsay Goodwin. Lindsay Goodwin is a trusted pioneering authority in reproductive medicine and fertility support. Her unique combination of skills, including being a licensed health provider, board-certified herbalist, and certified in hypnotherapy, NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, trauma healing, and a born intuitive medium, and a trained medical intuitive, sets her apart in the field. After a near-death experience, Lindsay began receiving deeper messages from spirit babies, known as future children, and has since guided hundreds of them to their parents. This unique spiritual approach to fertility support is why she is known as a spiritual fertility and spirit baby medium. She is also a teacher, published author, speaker, and host of her 2 radio shows, Fertile Frequencies and Intuitive Mind Lab Radio. Hi, Lindsay. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Laura. I am so excited to be on your show and to talk with you today about fertility. And yeah, just wonderful to be here.
Yeah. So you have a book coming out soon called Spirit Babies and the Fertile Mind. And I think we just have to start with, what is a spirit baby, and what is your story of how you kind of got into this really interesting work?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a common question. People want to know what spirit babies are. And essentially what a spirit baby is, it's the unborn soul of your baby. So we all are spirit babies. We all are energy before we incarnate into these physical bodies. And so there are messages that your spirit baby will actually send from the spirit world to help you on your journey. And so those could be, we can go through some of those common signs that spirit babies will send, but essentially it is the unborn soul of your baby.
And when does that baby, incarnate into the physical body? I'm assuming it's in utero. So is it a certain time in the pregnancy?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So it depends. I have actually seen some spirit babies that choose not to get into the actual womb, into the pregnancy until right before they actually will come into the physical earth side, which is really interesting. So they're observing outside of the physical experience, but their body is inside of the mother, of their mom. And then also, this is probably more common where the babies will come into the pregnancy at about 14 weeks. So I help people through some of those traumatic experiences where they experience chemical pregnancies and loss and those early pregnancies, because a common question also is that, well, if there's a lot of guilt about, did I do something wrong, or they're feeling guilty about the spirit baby, and the spirit baby actually will not come into the physical body until around 14 weeks. So maybe that helps some people that might be listening to this that have experienced loss, knowing that your spirit baby was observing the whole time. So essentially those pregnancies, we consider them more as planting of seeds, and it could be an idea of pushing you in a direction to help you to be better equipped and prepared for them to be in the physical reality into your family.
Got it. Yeah. So essentially, and that's what I had always heard. It was around 4 months. So 14, 16 weeks is when the soul enters into that fetus, which is also a second trimester or beyond, right? So first trimester, it's an embryo. And I guess that would make sense. It's not really developed enough to house a soul yet, right? But I have never heard of them coming in right before the birth. So that's very fascinating. But I guess it makes sense that there's a range, right? For different reasons. Yeah, I think that's really interesting to understand this. And I think what you're saying is there's always these messages that we have the opportunity to listen to and respond to.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, our babies are constantly communicating with us, and they could be communicating with us through other ways, other vessels. It could be through a pet. It could be that they're communicating with your pets. It could be through a butterfly, even nature, through the wind, dreams. There's a lot of different ways that they communicate, and they might be communicating with you way before you even decide that you want to have a baby, because some of these soul contracts essentially are sharpied in, I call it, and then other ones might be kind of penciled in, and it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to bring them into the world. But some of these contracts, they are definitely happening, and so they're guiding and communicating with you well before you even know that you decide whether or not you want to be a parent. So it's really interesting when we start looking at consciousness and energy and way beyond the physical reality. We start to really get into some very interesting, we can kind of, it's infinite the ways that we can think about things. So it's pretty interesting stuff.
It really is. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into this type of work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been treating fertility for nearly 20 years. I actually did not want to do women's health and fertility. I always said that while I was in training for, I'm an acupuncturist, I'm a licensed acupuncturist, board certified herbalist, that I never wanted to do that. I actually wanted to do autoimmune and pain management. That's where I wanted to focus on. Well, when I got out and started doing my private practice, that's all I was getting was fertility and women's health clients. And so I realized and stopped resisting that it was time for me to really start doing this work. And it just spanned from there. And then in 2017, I had a near-death experience. And when that happened, I was reawakened to my purpose. I've always had a communication with spirit. I'm a born intuitive medium. And so I was guided to that you're going to integrate science with the energy spiritual side. And then the spirit babies started coming to me in dreams. And also I had guides that were coming to me. There's guides that actually work with the spirit babies to help guide them into the physical world. I believe that I'm actually a guide in the physical world, helping them come into the world. But there are actually guides that are in the spirit world that are helping guide the babies and watch over them. And so they would also come to me in dreams. And for a long time, I was very resistant because thinking to myself, well, I'm doing this more sciencey, holistic side. What are doctors going to think of me? What are people going to think when I start bringing in this more spiritual, woo-woo kind of thing? And the universe wasn't stopping. These babies kept showing up. And so that's really where I got started in this work. It started as acupuncture, and then it moved into the more spiritual side.
So 2017, I was pregnant with my son. And during that pregnancy, I was getting a lot of messages from him. I had gotten a few beforehand, when I was at a doula training, and they were like, look for your spirit babies. So that was actually part of that. And I was like, oh, I do have a couple spirit babies around me. But then once he was, inside of me, and at that point, I was probably 20 weeks pregnant, I was really starting to get more clear messages. And some of them were business related, which was really fascinating about my chiropractic practice and getting out of the insurance model and switching to self-pay, things that were like scary. But I was like, yeah, it's been something I've wanted to do for a while. And that got a little push there from the spirit side. And then just ongoing, right? These little messages are coming in, and we really don't want to disregard these messages. They're there for a reason. They're important. And I'm so grateful that my son continues to, really show me, what's going on, and really is a great reflection for these spirit messages now, even at 7 years old.
I love that. That's absolutely incredible. Yeah, they definitely help us in a lot more ways than just the fertility aspect. It's it's a soul connection.
Yeah, there's a partnership there, you know what I mean? And I definitely know, like with my son and I'm like, I thank him for choosing me as his mom. There was definitely a connection and contract there that we're very bonded that way. So I feel very blessed for that too. I feel like that's unique. So yeah. So I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about spirit babies, because I have a meditation coach, and when we're running my female creative energy, she's like, that's attracting spirit babies, right? Like they're like, oh, I want to be born. I want to be born. I want to be born. And, I'm done having children, physical children. So like, there's also like, we don't want to have, if we're done having children, we don't want to have a ton of spirit babies around us. Like she said, one is helpful, but the rest you have to kind of bless and release, and they can find a new mother to birth them. I mean, do you have any guidance around that?
That's a really great question.
Probably nobody asked that because typically they're wanting the spirit babies, right? They're like, I want to get pregnant. But what if you're done getting pregnant?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they know. Here's the thing. I am always so 100% open to everybody's perspective. We all are entitled to the way that we process things, and it's beautiful. That's what makes everyone so beautiful. But I don't know if I totally resonate with that, because I think they know a lot more than we actually know, because we're having a human experience. So they haven't forgotten who they are. Whereas when we're having a human experience, we've really lost a lot of that connection with the infinite possibilities of what we truly are as these infinite creators. So they already know. So I don't feel that they're lost at all. I feel that they know exactly where they're going. But that's my perspective. You could do that if you feel that, if you feel you resonate with that. Absolutely. I think everything is about what you resonate with and what you're focusing on. And that's really how you're directing the energy. But as far as what my perspective on the souls that are coming in now, they are very, very, very advanced in consciousness.
These indigo children, right?
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of different names. That's one name, as well as New Earth kids. There's a lot of different names for them. And they have been incarnating into our physical reality for a long time. So it's not like it's a new thing, but more of them are coming in. So when you said your meditation coach, or is she your meditation mentor, that she was talking about that they're ready, oh, here's an opportunity. I could see that, because to some degree agree with some of that. It resonates with some of what she was saying to me, because they do want to come in.
They want to be birthed into the physical form. Right.
They're so excited to do their work. And that also is something that I often talk about in helping give people hope, and knowing that this is working out for them, that they are manifesting their baby and it is happening. Because we have to remember that if these children that are coming in now have such a high vibrational frequency and they have such a huge purpose, that means that not only physically our bodies have to be prepared to carry that kind of energy, but also when they actually birth and come into the experience, how do we be parents to children like that? How do we understand? So you working with a meditation mentor or someone that works with consciousness, that they love that. They want to be, any sort of spirit energy wants to be close to humans that are awake and evolving. So I think that's pretty powerful that she told you that.
And I would say, like, I've done, I do think my son is one of those children, and I've done some research on it, because it is somewhat challenging as a parent to parent these really evolved conscious souls. Do you have any guidance for new moms out there that are like, okay, I have an indigo child, help me. This child is very sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is allow your child to be authentic, allow them to be who they are, allow them to, without saying things like trying to condition them to think a certain way, or we think that we're helping, and not saying that it's not important for us to help our children to understand how to navigate in the physical world. But our generation, it was so much more about trying to get you to be in society versus being really authentically who you are. And so my clients now that I work with that are having children, that is something that I work with them, helping them to understand that it's okay for you to allow your child to be how they want to be. Of course, you have to give them some guidance. They can't run out in the street. You have to teach them some things to keep them safe. But I think creativity is really powerful. I think a lot of these babies that are coming in now, like your son, very much in the creative energy, all about creation, all about being very open and being authentic and excited about the whole physical experience. So it's definitely a different energy for sure.
Yes, it is. And, I think it's really very exciting for us as a humanity, right? to have this type of shift. I mean, would you say it's been in the past 10, 20 years that this has been happening, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Indigo kids, the New Earth kids, they have been coming in since the late 70s, early 80s. There was a bunch of them that came in, and they have been coming in a lot. It's been happening. It was happening before that too. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I definitely know that it's just it continues to keep happening. But for some reason, there's such a push of it now. I would probably say a very much so since COVID. I would say in the last 5 years, very much so since COVID.
And I mean, if you were to hypothesize, like there's more of a need, I guess, for an evolution in consciousness, and that's why this push is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the way the old paradigm, now we're getting a little bit down the rabbit hole, but it's totally fine. The old paradigm of the way that we were doing things, the universe isn't having it. So we have to move with how the consciousness is evolving. And anyone that's listening to this that knows anything about dimensions like 3D, 4D, 5D, essentially we're moving through different dimensions of consciousness. And it's not that there's a new Earth per se, a different planet, it's levels of consciousness. So these children that are coming in, they have a very high understanding of this high level consciousness like 4D or 5D. And so the parents have to be at the same level. You can't have a child come in that you're still thinking in the 3D, like in the reptilian sort of thinking of survival all the time, and then have a child that's having the 5D experience. It just, vibrational frequencies have to match. So that's part of what I was talking about with the body and the consciousness being connected to bring these children into the world. It's just they're workers, they're light workers. They're coming here to really be able to help the human race evolve past some of these lower frequencies sort of consciousness way of thinking.
I mean, this is such a beautiful conversation. So as I'm thinking about a woman who does want to become a mom, who is very excited to call in one of these spirit babies, it makes so much sense that if she's been stuck in this like high stress, low vibration, grind. I see this in the New York area, just that grind, without having the energy or spirit modalities, that she's working on herself or personal development, right? Then the spirit babies are perhaps thinking that's not the right house for me.
It has been a hot July, and it's the perfect time to get your Cozy Earth bamboo sheets. They're temperature regulating, guaranteed to give you a comfortable night's sleep, made from viscose from bamboo. They naturally wick away heat and moisture from your body, helping you sleep several degrees cooler. Did you know that when your body temperature is cooler at night, it helps the release of melatonin, which is a hormone that regulates sleep? This leads to faster sleep onset and improved sleep quality, which we all appreciate. It also helps with mood regulation because it can boost serotonin levels with that cooler sleep condition. And this is so important for all the new moms out there and also any perimenopausal women listening. This is a reduced risk of night sweats when you are having cooler room temperatures from these wonderful cooling bamboo sheets. And it helps alleviate symptoms and can promote uninterrupted sleep. So if you want to find out more, go check out the website, CozyEarth.com. Use the code WAM, that's Well-Adjusted Mama, WAM, for 40% off best-selling temperature-regulating sheets, apparel, and more. Trust me, you'll feel the difference the very first night.
Yeah, absolutely. But if they have a soul contract, it's eventually going to happen.
Okay, even if she's still in the 3D.
Well, I mean, there can be missed, I guess, opportunities. So but that's up to that person. You could be saying like, I want a baby, but you really could be resisting it. And I can't tell you how many times that has actually happened where people want something, but then on the subconscious level, they keep telling themselves self-sabotage of that. I'm not worthy of this. This isn't going to ever happen for me. It's really, and this is not a blame when I say this, but we can have a tendency to get into the victim, mode. And when we get into the victim mode, that's a very low vibrational frequency. So they might find another way to actually be in your life. And it could be that maybe your sister has a baby, or maybe you get a dog and they come through the dog, or maybe you have an aunt that gets married and the husband that she marries has kids, and you hang out with the kids. They can find another way to you, but I do believe that most of the time that people will find a way to incarnate those babies into their experience. And it could be through adoption, could be through egg donation, sperm donation, a lot of different ways. I've had clients that have wanted kids and ended up that they just decided that they just didn't want to go on anymore. And they ended up doing something like, the big brother, big sister program, and really got connected with the child that way. And then ended up feeling, this big relationship starts and there's a connection, almost like they're a parent to them. So there's a lot of different ways the baby can find you, and come into your life. But I do believe that people do get it. They eventually get how to get themselves to the frequency of the consciousness and the, say, 4D, for example, to be able to catch up to that level of consciousness that baby is at, that their soul is at. And it's through things like you. It's through finding your podcast. It's through listening to this, maybe finding a book or another. They're asking questions. They're asking, please, universe, God, Lord, whatever you resonate with, that I need answers, offer solutions. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be able to get this to manifest into my life. So that's why we have to be patient with ourselves. I think that that's probably one of the biggest keys here, is being patient with yourself through this
kind, compassionate, like how you would treat your best friend, right? I think that self-sabotage component is so important. I'd love to delve a little bit deeper into that, actually, because I think that can be a huge block in fertility challenges. So if a woman is suspecting that maybe that is part of her challenge, how does she overcome these subconscious or unconscious beliefs, right? Like, how does she move past? In my practice, I like Psych K. That's a great way to do it. What kind of work do you use with these women?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use a lot of tools similar to Psych K, like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yes. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So neuro-linguistic programming, essentially what that is it's short for NLP, and it's really about the neuro. It's neuro-linguistic programming. So neuro is about your senses, and then linguistics about the communication. And then the programming is going to be about the outcomes. And really, it could be that patterning as well that's creating those outcomes. So you can use different techniques. And I thought about this 3 different techniques that I like that I would mention today. Anchoring is one. I often will use that for people that have a lot of anxiety. And essentially, you can use these tools. You can teach your clients how to use them on their own, and you create an anchor. And then that anchor is, you think of a time that you felt really safe, and then you will use a knuckle, for example, and then you connect with that energy when you feel anxious. So you create an anchor to that particular part of your body. You touch that part of your body and you close your eyes and you think of when you felt safe. So that works really well to regulate the central nervous system when you're feeling anxious. So that's really great in fertility, especially for somebody that might be going and having an embryo transfer and they're feeling really anxious that day if it's going to work or not. So anchoring could be a great technique to teach your client easily for them to remember. It's very easy. The next one is meta model, which really is about being able to reframe things. So essentially what you're doing is you're picking something that someone has a feeling about, some sort of like, you identify, what are you self-sabotaging? Like, where is that coming from? And then you're asking them a series of questions. And by the time you get to the end of the questioning, the client's looking at you like, okay, why am I thinking that way? Like, that just doesn't resonate. So basically you're peeling back the layers and you're getting them to see that what they're thinking about, what proof do you have that that's true? People don't even a lot of times even have any proof. It's just that for so long they've been in this self-sabotage mode of that it doesn't happen for me. Things don't work out for me. It's always going to be the worst case scenario. So you work with them for them to see with their own consciousness through these techniques that, why am I thinking like that? Sometimes we don't even stop ourselves and ask ourselves, why, where did I pick that up? why am I thinking like that? So that's a technique I like, as well as time techniques, which really what that is a lot of visualization. So you're taking your client back to the trauma of when they probably picked up the self-sabotage. And then you are rewriting that through a series of going through a timeline. And so essentially, this is really powerful for someone that's having fertility struggles or even birth trauma. You know, you'd be surprised. I'm sure that you've seen this, where people will have birth trauma with their babies as well as they might personally have birth trauma.
Right. Yes. And then I definitely see challenges with fertility for future pregnancies if they haven't done work to release the trauma, because it almost doesn't feel safe to be pregnant again and potentially have another, near-death experience, for example, with the birth, right? So in those cases, I'll say, hey, work with a hypnotherapist in my practice and let's release these emotional events that are stored in the body and will certainly put our nervous system in a state of fight or flight. And, we know even our cave woman sisters, they were not getting pregnant when they were running from a tiger. Like that just was not the right time to get pregnant, right? So in our modern world, even though that tiger isn't real, we can have these imaginary tigers that are with us. And that is a big block for fertility.
Yeah, because your body is saying this is not an environment for pregnancy.
It's not safe, essentially. Yeah. If you're pregnant, you can't run as fast from that tiger.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really important. So yeah, NLP is a fascinating modality, and there's so many. EFT is another great, there's so many cool tools out there that can help. Even in my office, I do NEET, which is an allergy elimination technique, but I'll use that for emotions and emotional events. It's about shifting the energy to that specific emotion or event. And so you're become neutral energetically, you become neutral to it, right? And it doesn't create that polarity and therefore symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our minds are so powerful. And it's interesting that medicine is now just starting to catch up. Modern medicine is starting to really investigate some of these. And, there has been quite a few studies that were done, especially at Harvard University back in 2011, about how when women and couples engaged in mind-body connection therapies, that they had much higher success rates than when they couldn't before. So we do know that the mind is super powerful. And you have to think too, this is always interesting to me. Mitochondria is energy. Everything is energy.
Yes.
Everything in your body is energy. So the mind is telling all the energy what to do. It's the machine, it's the control operation, and it's attached to your body. So we have to really remember that in anything in your life, your health included, including hormones and fertility, that we have to focus on the energy. It's driving the direction of where things are going. And progesterone, for example, is FSH, highly affected by high levels of stress.
Molecules of emotion, Candace Pert's work, right? Spoke to how what we were thinking and feeling would create these biochemical changes in our body. And it could be the stress hormones. It certainly, therefore, is impacting sex hormones. The whole endocrine system, right, is a very delicate balance. It's all connected. So it's not the adrenals and thyroid are separate from our ovaries, right? They're all part of that same system and are very much impacted by stress. I was even just listening to a lecture with my IFM training from Dr. Joel Evans. He spoke to the UN about how stress is so detrimental during pregnancy, and really as a whole, this is the UN, right? So as a whole, United Nations, how can we help women feel safer and less stressed? Because that will literally create a more peaceful culture. That is just directly connected there, right? So this is so important before we get pregnant, while we're pregnant, during the birth, right? Safety, safety, safety. Our nervous system is just, crying for that safety. And that requires support and surrender and trust and empowerment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, just thinking about community, and we were talking about meditation. They did studies. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm in Denver now, but they did studies in Chicago where they would use meditation in the inner city. And they actually found that there was less murders and crimes when they were having people they were offering these meditation classes and resources. So it really does. Consciousness is connected to everyone. It's not separate. And we have to remember that everything starts within. So if we really want to make a change in the world, and obviously it starts with ourselves, we have to focus on our own consciousness, because it's connected to everyone, including your family as well. So if we want to have better relationship with our partners, with our kids, with our parents, with our friends, anybody, you have to focus on yourself first. And I see this time and time again with my couples that I'm working with, that when we go through fertility treatments, it gets to be, the intimacy gets to be the baby making, and you lose a lot of communication. You forget what it's like to be in a relationship that's healthy. And, there's a lot of things that can happen there. But when you start focusing, I always talk about this, when you start focusing on your own energy and really doing things to uplift yourself, that you'll just naturally notice your partner will start changing. They just naturally will. You don't even have to say anything. They'll just being like, I had a client the other day that her husband just right out of the blue said, you know what? I really think that we should enjoy intimacy more. We should think less about baby making and more about connecting. And I thought, gosh, you wanted him to say that for a long time and you didn't say anything, but now he's saying on his own, because she's focusing on her own healing and her own self. So he's feeling that too.
It's contagious. I mean, when you're positive, and I guess it goes both ways, right? But when you're positive, it's just like people are attracted to that. And they're like, I want that. I want to be part of that. You're smiling at them. They're smiling. It's just, and then they pay it forward, right? So, yes, I've heard about other meditation studies where just, how in general, even at a global level, how that's impacted the crime and warring. So it's just like the more we can all be a part of that and birth these amazing spirit babies into the world, then we're really all, we're shifting this. And it does come from the mom, right? The mothers are the ones leading this shift in consciousness.
Exactly. It's really beautiful. I mean, this is a self-discovery. This is beyond having babies. And anyone listening to this, it is going to happen for you. I just know it. If you're struggling with infertility right now, it will happen. But also remember that this is about self-discovery. You're finding the amazingness within yourself and those connections that you might not be quite aware of yet. And this transformation is helping you to have a deeper connection with that.
That's beautiful. Well, Lindsay, we're going to wrap up this interview. Did you have any last thoughts you wanted to share?
Well, that kind of was the last thought, but it was so wonderful being on your show today. Thank you so much, Laura. And like I said, anyone listening to this, just know that it is happening for you. And if it wasn't meant for you, you wouldn't desire it for it to happen.
And Lindsay, if people want to find out more information about you, how can they find you and your podcast?
Absolutely. So my podcast is Fertile Frequencies. It's also the name of my website, which is Fertile Frequencies. And I have lots of resources on there. I do have a couple of free gifts. I can definitely send those links so you can provide those for your listeners, your community. I have a guide as well as a Spirit Baby affirmations meditation that people can use. Both of those are going to be free resources. So definitely check that out. And then I'm on social media. I have a YouTube channel, so you can find me there. And yeah, anyone that's looking to connect, definitely reach out. I love hearing from people.
Awesome. It was so nice to connect with you today.
Yeah, same. Thank you, Laura.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Lindsay. Oh my gosh, what an amazing woman to speak to. I really appreciated her connection with spirit and all of the valuable information and insights she was able to share today. And spirit babies. I mean, what's more fun than talking about spirit babies? They're so cool. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to find out more about Lindsay or connect with her, work with her, you can find her at garnetmoonlove.com. Her podcast, Fertile Frequency, which is also on a website, fertilefrequencies.com, or on Instagram, fertile_frequencies.